Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of Talking Local. If you haven't caught one of our previous Talking Local interviews before, I get together with some very well-known, very respected people from the local search industry, and I ask them questions about their experiences, their insights, also their motivations and what gets them out of bed in the morning. Today I'm joined by Brian Anderson of MediaMash. Brian started his first internet marketing business all the way back in 1995, and since then he's founded many search businesses, social businesses, and also mobile marketing businesses. As well as running his own agencies, he also provides training in search and social, and also does a lot of talking at industry events. So he's a very busy man. So we're very happy that you could be with us today, Brian. And where are you, by the way?
Hey, Miles, doing very well. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm actually, if you notice the background here, I'm down at the Florida Gulf Coast. I have a beach condo for a week and taking a week of sun and fun with the kids. So I have 4 kids, and we're down on holiday, if you will, for a week.
That's great. That's very nice. I bet it's a lot warmer and a lot nicer than it is here.
It's a great week. Yeah, it's been beautiful here for sure.
Well, that does sound lovely, Brian. So, amongst all Brian's vast skills and knowledge, he has one area of expertise that I'm particularly interested in exploring today. Brian specializes in working with multi-location franchise businesses. In particular, he focuses on the automotive industry, working with car dealerships. Personally, I don't know much about franchise industries and how they work and how you sell into them, but they definitely represent a lucrative opportunity. So I'm hoping in today's interview, Brian will share some of his insights and his tips with us about how to sell into franchises and how to make your business work when you target that particular type of customer. So Brian, you do a ton of things. You run your own agency, you provide training, you also speak at a lot of events. How do you divide your time between those different tasks, and which do you enjoy doing the most?
It's a great question, Miles. And I often don't know exactly how I divide my time. Sometimes I'm at a loss, like you would imagine. But it's having the right people. So I have a very well-qualified team that I've had for over 5 years at MediaMash, and with their help, I'm able to kind of spearhead the agency while participating in industry events and kind of doing other things.
That's obviously a nice position to be in. I mean, how long did it take you to get to that point with your business?
I started in 1994-95, and I, like a lot of people, did a lot of different things, looking to make additional money, and then from there it grew into whole new areas. But I would say it took 3 full years to turn the corner and continually achieve, high 6-figure kind of income. It was tough at first. I think the one thing that I might have had an advantage on over others is that I actually started doing local in one way or another in '96. So I had a long stream of freelance clients before I went full time, and I was able to build on top of that base. So I didn't just start cold turkey one day. It was an evolutionary process that began in, before Google, a long time ago.
Okay, that's great. So you kind of chose to kind of work with franchises, particularly in the automotive industry. What can you, why did you choose to kind of go after that particular market? What's good about working with franchises?
You know what? Let me clarify. So we work with franchises actually across all industries. Our specific target is automotive, but I have 3 franchises today that are non-automotive, and they were the base of our business. The reason we realized the opportunity is 4 years ago we landed an alarm company, a security company in the United States, a very well-known company, and we picked up 10 or 11 locations, all owned by one franchisee, and they secured an invite for us to speak at the national convention. We went to this convention in Tucson, Arizona in 2010, and out of that we landed 40, 50 new clients over a 3-day period. I mean, a bunch of them signed right there in the room. And I realized immediately that the struggle with acquiring clients could be addressed through, building that relationship with a multi-location business. Now, some of them control all their decisions from a corporate level, and others let the franchisees make decisions. So it's a little bit of a detective process to figure it out. But to me, the real lure was the opportunity to land lots of clients, generate reasonable revenue without the typical sales process and the struggle that a lot of us have on the sales side.
So from what you say then, it sounds like there is no sort of one-size-fits-all approach with franchises. Some are more controlled centrally and some are kind of more devolved down to kind of a location level. Which is better? Which one is easier for you to kind of work with? And how can you go about identifying the structure of a particular franchise?
No, thank you, Miles. Yeah, there really is no one-size-fits-all approach for franchisees. What often happens is there's a corporate marketing director or vice president of marketing that wants to centralize and control everything. And then there's the franchisees that bought into their business model that they own their own business. And both of these are very powerful people in the company, and they both make decisions. So somehow it's a challenge between pleasing the corporate VP or marketing department as well as placating the local franchisee. We have both models. We have one franchise where everything is through corporate, which I love. I really love because it's only one person to please and one decision maker. But then the other franchises we work with are on a model where we work directly with the franchisees in each market. The advantage there is we build relationships with all these different people, and if the franchise at a corporate level wanted to make a change, it wouldn't necessarily cause us to lose our relationship. So we're probably a stronger position when we work with the franchisees because we're able to build those relationships directly and we're not a corporate person. Although the advantage with corporate is it's one check and it's very, very easy to work with. So there's no right answer. I think I prefer corporate. I know that corporate prefers that any marketer work with corporate, but there are advantages to both sides. So truthfully, there's no right answer to that one.
That's very interesting. So how long is a typical sales cycle with a franchise from when you might start a relationship to when you might land them? And does that change if you're going through corporate than if you're going direct with the dealer?
It does, Miles. So the typical sales process does differ. If you go through corporate, you're going to get the usual rebuff, pushback, and you almost have to build a relationship and become a trusted advisor of that marketing person, the marketing director typically. And if you go through the franchisee level, what typically happens is you land one or more locations as a client. You're going to build a success story. You're going to generate a win, if you will, and try to turn that franchisee into a raving fan. So it's two different approaches. And then what happens when you go at the franchisee level and you deliver results, you get them to help market or evangelize your success story inside the franchise, the bigger franchise. Typically that happens at user groups or national meetings. Almost all of our success has come out of participating at these national conferences they have. So I volunteered to do a series of talks at the conference. So for instance, at the Sonatrol conference that I was at, a security company, I spoke about the changing role of search in the commercial security business, and then we talked about the convergence of social media and search, all the kind of topics that are relevant in our industry today, but applied to their vertical and then simplified down so that they can kind of have some key points as takeaways. That is typically where you're able to like tell your story, share the successes you've had with a single franchise, and then hopefully land other franchisees that want similar success. And the beauty is when you get 100 or 200 businesses in the room, all with the same goal, the same vision that the company you just worked with, it's easy to secure them as clients. So it's a lot of fun. It's completely different than the normal sales cycle of any local client or any search client that I work with. And the beauty is it allows you to go after large numbers of clients with single sales cycles. So it's a different sales cycle, and sometimes it lasts several months, but the payback is well worth it. The payback could be, depending on where you're at in your business, you could go and land a franchise that immediately brings you 10 to 20,000 a month in revenue, if not more. And we found that as the only way we were able to really make a difference in our revenue. We were in a rut where we would get clients between 500 and 1,200 a month typically, and we did solely local search. And then when we started landing these franchisee clients, I realized we weren't going to get $1,000 a client. They were economies of scale, pushed the pricing down in most cases to the $300 to $400 level. and we would do a lot more work for $300 or $400 than we ever would for 1,000. And the reason why is if you can get 110 locations at $350, you're front loading a little bit of the work just like you do with any other client. But the advantage is you have this tremendous cash flow that.
Okay, that's great. So obviously franchises do represent, a significant opportunity if you manage to, kind of tap into the sales cycle and kind of work those relationships. So what are the issues and the kind of problems with working with franchises? Where do you find the biggest kind of headaches or problems come into it?
No, it's a great question, Miles. The challenges around franchises are many. And first and foremost is they have very high expectations relative to what they want to pay. I'm sure everybody listening to this may say, that's the same as my client. Well, most of your clients won't ask you to do, and mobile for $300. And I often find that they feel very entitled, and it's very similar to what most people experience with their clients, except it's magnified because they feel like as part of 100 or even a 200 or 300 location business, they have more sway with you. So that first and foremost has been my challenge. I was a big believer in pushing the price point and the value that we bring up. And so when I started working with franchises, I realized I had to package it in a way that made sense for them, not just what I wanted. And once I got over my own internal hurdles and objections there, and I realized that I didn't have to get $1,000 a month, that I could build a very sustainable business, even a 7-figure business with clients at the $300 price point, I learned how to play into that desire that they had, which was to get more. So now the packages that I do with franchisees typically span search and reputation, the two areas that I think most of them need the most, and in many cases include some kind of mobile website and if it's needed. By bundling these services together, it makes it very hard for them to walk away from me, one, and then two, it gives them that feeling of winning and getting a tremendous value for the price they're paying as part of the big picture franchise. So that's probably the biggest issue I've had. The other issue is there truly is a disconnect between corporate marketing and the franchisee. Corporate marketing sees a typical corporate director or VP that wants to command and control the whole company. Franchisee paid $100,000, $200,000 to be an owner, and in their mind, they own their business. They're the CEO. So they both have sway and both have power, and they have to find a way to coexist together and move the ball forward, if you will. And in many cases, it gets into a very difficult relationship where the stronger franchisees want to poo-poo anything that corporate marketing will do, and corporate marketing wants to run roughshod over what the franchisees want. So somehow, you as a digital agency is going to get caught in the middle, and you have to somehow walk that line between pleasing corporate and pleasing the franchisee while you deliver value.
That is actually very fascinating.
But once you figure it out, it makes for job.
Apologies, Brian. I cut you off a little bit there. The visual is jumping around a little bit. Okay. So it's interesting to sort of figure out the kind of dynamic of the relationships, between the guy at corporate and the guy local, both thinking that they are kind of ultimately in charge. Obviously, with franchises comes scale, and if you're a relatively small sort of consultant or agency, and you're going to go after franchises or you land one, how quickly do you have to kind of scale up your business to be able to kind of cope with the potential volume you get? And did you have any kind of issues or struggles around the first time that you got a franchise and kind of dealing with that extra capacity that was needed?
Miles, it's a great question, and I'm going to answer this one honestly. Yes, we had a lot of issues there. You have to be very intelligent on how you package your services so that you can deliver value to the client in the agreement that you have. So it can't require tons and tons of man effort per location per sale. So our first this was around tracking basis Most of the software tools out there didn't allow for that, and most of the software tools didn't allow for tracking more than one URL. So for me, we had to devise a model that showcased the effort we were doing for the franchisee, and typically that was more than just their website. It would maybe a YouTube video, it may be a press release. And so when you and I originally talked, the ability that BrightLocal had to monitor and track multiple web properties per franchisee, per location, was critical, because a large percentage of what we do is sell the success we bring. If we don't champion the work we're doing, nobody will. They're the first to say it's not working. So you have to showcase that it is working, and you have to be able to track that. So I would say a product, obviously like BrightLocal, I'm a customer, is very important. Most products fall down in this area. They don't allow you to win with franchises at all. You have to be able to showcase multiple URLs. So when you position your services, for instance, if you're doing local search, you want to be heavy around citations, because citations are so important to true map results and all the geo-based results that these clients need. You want to stay away from heavy content creation, for instance, because that's so manual intensive that in most cases you're not able to provide value. You want to focus on the things that a small team can do. As an example, I have a team of 2 that runs 111 locations of a retail franchise, and that includes managing the relationship, the day-to-day relationship via email and occasional phone calls and so forth. So this team tracks and monitors everything, and then my service offered was heavy, let's say it was heavy content creation, I wouldn't be able to do that for 100 locations. So we've had to do it in-house, and then leverage third-party tools, and leverage the occasional outsourcer, as you would imagine, when it makes sense. But it's very important that the right services are chosen to sell to the franchisee. I think that's the most critical point that we can answer that question.
Okay, that's great, Brian. Thank you very much. So it seems it's a lot about the systems and the processes that you have in place to make it really efficient in terms of running your business. So I've just got one final question for you. How do you market yourself? You also talked about going to these kind of trade events, or these kind of within franchise events. Sounds great. But what other channels do you kind of market yourself through? And do you sort of pick particular franchises that you want to go after, and then kind of focus all your efforts on those, or do you find that now you've got a reputation of either in the automotive industry or by working with franchises in general, that a lot of business just comes to you?
Yeah, Miles, it's a great question. Let me answer from the beginning and talk about the shift. The shift and how we address that is, initially I marketed directly via cold call and cold email, if you will, into decision makers. So once I realized that I wanted to get into franchises, this is before I realized the automotive opportunity, I would direct target marketing director or marketing VP at that franchise, and then typically I would try to build a relationship at the local level. And I met some of these people through networking groups at the local level, Chamber of Commerce meetings, and then just walking in and saying hello. So that was kind of the initial onset. As time progressed, we developed a focus on the automotive industry. Reason being is there was a the high price point per location. They have large marketing budgets, significantly 10 to 25 times larger than other businesses, and so we wanted to kind of develop a solution around automotive. So what I did in that case is I hired an ex-automotive general manager, a gentleman that ran a Toyota store in the Atlanta market. He had finished, kind of burned out on the whole 100-hour-a-week career working in retail automotive. I hired him to come and help us build a sales channel. And so with his experience, we built a direct retail sales focus on automotive. Now, on the other side of the house, I continually, on my level and my partner, I have a partner, Peter, to land large franchises, almost in a consultative role where we'll reach out and we'll leverage our past success going on at any one time. We have our sales team that's solely focused on automotive, and they have vertical knowledge, and they reach in, they know the language, the lingo. We have packages designed for the automotive industry. Typically, franchises are 3 to maybe 10 or 12 stores, and the price point is several $1,000s per location versus several $100s at a normal franchisee. Now, on the large-scale franchise side, we've had a lot of success with retail and restaurant, and it's very easy to find the right person. Their names are published everywhere. The counter is they get a lot of phone calls. So I've learned that the right way to reach those people is not to ask, is to come in and offer to help, provide some tooling, show them some things that are going wrong, and just from a benevolent standpoint, offer to share and teach and correct an issue at no cost so you can build that rapport. And as we build a rapport, we then eventually, it may be a long time, 3-6 months, turn that into a discussion about how we can play a role. And usually within a year, we find a way to speak at their user conference or franchisee convention. And that's typically what happens in our sales cycle to land a client. Once we get to the convention, that equals new clients.
Brian, that's great. That's some fantastic insight. So thank you for sharing that. I don't have any more questions. It looks like a very sunny day where you are. I'm sure you're itching to get back out to the beach. So thank you very much for spending some time with us this morning. And for everyone who's listened in and watching this video, thank you very much for watching Talking Local. And please do look out for some upcoming interviews that we've got over the next few weeks. Thank you very much.